Welcome to another episode of Tres Leches Radio, representing 1/3 of the trio. Participating in No Shave March today, it's Mr. Rad Soul. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Man. Yo, man, it's good to do a Saturday day episode. You know what I mean? They call me Psycho B, or you could call me Mr. Walt B.
I see what you did there. I see what you did.
It's Junkyard Rings over here. I mean, so the guy with it. What it do?
I gotta be fashion. Like, come on.
Oh man. When you gave your life to Islam after the second album. So.
There we go. All right. So as always, as Brandon said, we have a special edition Saturday episode, which is why there's so much daylight present on our cameras. As always, you can stream us. We are Tres Leches Radio at everything. You can stream us on Amazon Music and Spotify. And as always, content is 18 and up because we curse sometimes. So without further ado, B-Stacks, take it away. What we got in us? We've kind of hinted at it a little bit. What we got in store today?
Yeah. So if you guys been following us throughout the seasons, this time around, season 2, episode 3, we had an episode called Battle of the Boards, which is one of our first concept episodes where we took 2 producers. Then it was Dre and Kanye, and we kind of told their musical stories, and we did our verses, if to compare, and we did a cumulative score at the end. So you guys will definitely want to stick around for this one. It'll be cool. But this time around, we're going to switch it up. We have the Beatnuts, and we have, man, I gotta.
We know who he's going for. Oh, that shirt is fresh. You really have a shirt for every occasion, bro. Damn.
I was going to wear one of my 30 Tribe Called Quest shirts. I'm going to wear this Black Moon shirt in honor of Beatminerz today. So we Battle of Boards 2.0, man.
You ironed very well, by the way. That shirt is crisp, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro. I don't wear it too much, man. You know what I'm saying? Only on Black Moons, So, let's get started, man. Tail of the tape, right? Like, how did these acts get here? So we have the Beatnuts on the left corner, and they went from a 4-man team to a 2-man team, eventually being Psycho, Les, and Juju. We'll get into that later. And then on the other note, we have the Beatminerz. So we first see the Beatnuts, and so their notoriety kind of track was and I didn't know this prior to this episode, was 1990's Moni Love's debut album. They had a single on there, and hence their introduction to the Native Tongues crew. And then you got 93's Reign of the Tech, which is like an underground classic.
Love that.
The Beatminerz, we pretty much see them on like Who Got the Props, Black Moon's first album. So they come out swinging with a classic album. And so that's kind of like the genesis, right? We have the Beatnuts first album, the Beatminerz first album, which comes out way later. With it being Women's Month, a little quick shout out to Apani B. Fly and Jean Grey, this was their rookie debut years on that first Beatminerz album. Just real quick, man.
The Beatminerz, and this is just for clarity. You talking about the Brace for Impact joint?
The Brace for Impact LP.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to get my knowledge straight. All right.
Yeah, correct. So, real quick, man, just asking you guys, why? Obviously, we've spent some time on this, but why do you guys think this is a good matchup? And with both of their careers, playing a similar trajectory, like time-wise, how do you feel like these groups relate, or maybe don't relate?
I would say they relate in the sense that they're both not just East Coast, right? Because East Coast is a broad term. They're both New York crews that made, names for themselves on the underground. Like they have, to different extents, cult followings on the underground side, right? They both have worked with different A-listers, right? You got Beatnuts that, worked with Pun. You know what I'm saying? The Beatminerz have worked from everybody, like, everybody in boot camp, to like a Royce the 5'9" who's still relevant today. You know what I'm saying? They've worked with like cream of the crop talent. They keep it very underground, and I know it's a broad term. They keep it gritty, you know what I mean? There's nothing flashy about it. And remember, there's an avenue for that. So in their own ways, their interpretations of music that like they keep it very like you would never mistake what region or what lane of hip hop they occupy sonically. So there's, that's one way I think that they really, that you can, match them up here.
Yeah, definitely agree. When you look at that, especially during that time frame where they're coming, you got the boom bap, obviously, some of the jazzy stuff, Latin jazz influences, within a lot of their production. So, I think on paper, at first glance, it's like, why? Because you're almost looking at a full posse group versus a group that became a smaller group. But I just think as far as the influence, directly within their camps, associated acts, made this a nice matchup, especially for like that, the quote unquote golden era hip hop.
Word. And, both of these production teams, they have heavy influence in boom bap, native tongues, backpack rap, Latin rap. And both have had, big successes. We can name a few as we go on here. But, just kind of coming from the beginning until the, middle of their careers, man, what was you guys' introduction to like the Beatminerz and the Beatnuts?
Yo, without even realizing it, right? Because I've always said, like my older brother has probably every boot camp click release like ever. And, the Beatminerz, right? Like they established themselves specifically. I mean, like the first projects to my knowledge that they're tied to are Enter the Stage, The Shining, The Storm, and Nocturnal. My brother had all these albums. He always played them. I think he had them on cassette too. That's, that's how far back we're going. So without realizing that I'm listening to the Beatminerz production, that's how I, that was me hearing them. Later on, I remember like when I used to buy the Source magazine, that Brace for Impact was getting promoted because I want to say, Brandon, was that a Raucous release?
Man, that's a good question, bro.
Yeah. I want to say it's, I think that's it might Raucous. Be, okay, all right, so it is, and this is like that's like early 2000s. Raucous had a nice little independent run. So like Beatminerz, I think I was formally introduced to their name in like the early 2000s, but I was hearing their music in the 90s, not realizing it. You know what I'm saying? And then Beatnuts, ironically, to mention my older brother again, he bought me that Stone Crazy cassette in 97. And then from there, I just liked it. He just took a gamble, bought it, liked it. Obviously, Off the Books was the smash on that album, and I haven't looked back on the Beatnuts ever since. Even in the stuff that came before then.
Yeah. I think for me it's similar. Like knowing the Beatminerz early, but not knowing it. At the same time, because when I'm listening to this stuff, I'm thinking they're all Black Moon, and secondly, it's a fraction of it. I think when I came to realization, I think it was with Jamil when he got the second album, Warzone, and I look at the credits and I'm like, come thinking it's gonna say production, Black Moon, but saying Beatminerz, like who Beatminerz, and hearing Evil D before and everything else, I didn't really separate the two, fractions within itself. So, going back to, like you said, some of the other underground classics at that point, and then, connecting the dots. That's pretty much how I got exposed. But Beatnuts, shout out to Matt Taylor, 10th grade. He put me on No Escaping This. And it was one of the same things too. I knew about the Beatnuts, but really didn't connect the dots. I wasn't really heavy into them at that point. But he's like, yo, gotta check this out. Gotta check out Musical Massacre. And then I was going from pretty much what was their latest album at that point, and then going backwards. And then remembering Off the Books, but not knowing who was really associated with. I don't know, y'all guys remember that show on MTV? I can't remember the title, but it was like mid-90s. It was like one of the ones where they were like, they do like random videos for any genre, and they almost gave how they felt. Like they said, oh, this is good, this is trash. And I think everybody said trash. Yeah, I can't remember the name. I'm gonna probably find it afterwards, but Off the Books came on there. And this is before people really knew who Pun was. So this is pretty much, if you really know hip hop like this, this is the first time you heard about Pun, Keep on Link, Beatnuts. And they just trashed the song. Like they're like, oh, on he's this big guy. MTV. I'm gonna try to find out that show because they're like, this guy calling himself the Punisher. They kind of laughed it off. Exactly. But going back to that, and I'm like, y'all calling this trash, and I'm just hearing this different influences and different artists they're working with, and I'm like, crazy. Crazy. But my for both of them, kind of getting future than Back to the Past.
Yeah, similar with me. So with the Beatnuts. Like probably the first song I was cognizant of was Off the Books, where I could like identify them as the the authors to that song. But like once that album, once Stone Crazy comes out, and then like the connection with Pun, then I went back to like Street Level and just like
Talking to
native tongue stuff. Yeah, like
yeah.
I mean, they got stuff on. They produced Chi Ali's first whole album. Like
I was looking that up. Yep, that's crazy.
it got crazy, just jewels like everywhere they spread around.
You know what I keep forgetting, Brandon? So that street level album, because Psycho Les said it. It was the title of the album was actually supposed to just be eponymous. It was just supposed to be called The Beatnuts, but because on the cover it says street level, like the sign is on there.
Yeah,
people thought that was the album title. So like we call it that, and dude, I didn't know that for like decades. Like I read that like recently. So now, like, you know, we call it street level because I think it's easier to just call it that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Psycho Les was saying, he's like, yeah, if you look at like the side of the CD or like nowhere else on the CD, aside from the album cover, which just had that in the background, they said there's nowhere else on there. So yeah, just random hip hop trivia. Like,
wow.
Yeah,
and that's my favorite album by them.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. It just, we'll get into that, but it's my personal favorite. The Beatminerz, I was more formally introduced with them, just because of like who got the props, and then like, you know, like music my brother was listening to, and I remember I bought the tape of the first album. So like, even though like the Beatminerz were more of a like silent partner to Boot Camp Click, the fact that they were connected to Black Moon, to me, I was able to instantly identify them, like who they are, Mr. Walt, Evil D, and I pretty much followed them throughout the whole process. So I mean, I favor them more, but then, you know, like I also like had my time in with the Beatnuts as well. You know what I mean? So let's get into the battle of things. So the production discographies, right? Like, let's try to compare projects of theirs against each other for the sake of like a healthy debate. You know what I mean? And not just limited to like what they have as solo stuff. What, in you guys' opinion, are the best albums and projects that the Nuts have been a part of, or even just like partially?
Part of, I would say definitely Capital Punishment, and Supreme Clientele. And I think, you know, granted, they only did one beat on each of those respective albums, but I always felt like they set the tone to the album. Like when Beware first came out and first hearing it, you know, and I'm like, how, you know, damn, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right, this is how we get it going, you know, especially when you had that you know, the intro with the you know, with the Punisher, and then, you know, looks Supreme Clientele. I didn't realize
they did one,
made that
right?
beat.
It was one, right?
One. And I didn't realize they did beat. I'm thinking this is something RZA did. And remember, you know, with the album, RZA was trying to also find people with the same sound. So I'm thinking, oh, this is a Wu sound. This is more, you know, fresher RZA. It's like, oh, this is the Nuts. You know, and they're saying then, like, they set the tone to a Wu-Tang album, you know, and I felt like they followed that vibe all throughout. So I think that's because of one track. I think it just really just put you in that zone for it.
Yeah, they also did, and sometimes it's like, and I think a lot of production crews do this because I think Beatminerz did, like, it'll say produced by, sometimes it'll be like Beatnuts, sometimes like it'll just be like Juju or Psycho Les or something.
Yeah,
and I know with Beatminerz, it's the same thing. Sometimes it might, you know what I mean? It might be Evil D, you know what I'm saying? But or even I think Baby Paul was like, I don't know if he's still part of it, right?
Early stages.
Yeah, but with Beatnuts, they also did you know, Puns What You Gonna Do? Juju did that. They have placement on Fat Joe's Jose album. As far as like standout albums, right? I'm just picking like the more, and even Master Ace's A Long Hot Summer. They have a placement on there, and like all these albums we just said are held in high regard, and you know, they played their part in them. So, you know, those are some of the ones that, aside from their own work, that, you know, people in their primes, you know, tap the Beatnuts, yo, give me a beat, and it made albums that went platinum and stuff. You know what I mean? So like, and I believe like when an artist goes platinum, everybody who participated in the album, if you're a feature, like a producer, gets a plaque too. So you know, so these guys have plaques to their names, even if, you know, their own stuff didn't hit those numbers. You know, they've contributed to A-list stuff.
Yeah, I would go tell everybody to check out like basically all their involvement with Native Tongue, and they even have some involvement with like some of the DITC members, like Showbiz and Diamond D, OC. I did some reading on them like a couple years ago, and you know, and I read up that like, you know, they were kind of like happy with just being like a hired production team, you know, like they didn't necessarily need to be a group. So like them rapping and doing beats for themselves kind of was like a plus. So I mean, I think that we're all blessed in hip hop that they made that decision to like do more, just like, you know, connecting with G Ali or Pun or you know, this, that, and the third. That will be my contribution to this little segment, to just encourage people to check out like the native tongues and the DITC stuff, because I mean, like they got crazy placements everywhere, you know.
Foundation right there.
Yeah. So we'll swing at the other end, and in the right corner, the Beatminerz. To y'all, man, what are some of the best projects that the Miners have been a part of, or you know, their own stuff?
The boot camp stuff, I think, hands down. Like, you know, I was kind of just going through it, and like I said earlier, Into the Stage, The Shining, The Storm, Nocturnal. I think not only did, like I said before, did that like establish like their foundation and make a name for themselves, right? They helped to take it a step further. They were helping define a sound for a region. So it's more than just like, oh, these are classics within this crew's, you know, discography. It was even going as far as like, yo, this was a big sound for New York once upon a time. So I just think those foundational albums, like they're always like, if you look at different, you could go to 20 different hip hop sites that do like rankings of, you know, Crew's albums, and these albums are always within like the top 5 of, you know, boot camp's best releases like ever. So I know some of the obvious ones, but I mean, I don't know what other projects they've done that you rank above these. I'm not saying other ones aren't good. I'm just saying I think this is like their crown jewels right here.
I mean that's the nail right there. I mean, anything that was in that time frame, you know, we're talking about 94, 95, 96 was, you know, The Shine, Enter the Stage, Nocturnal, like the sound that they had, and they were so much part of that sound, you know, during that era. So I mean, you can pick your poison, you know, almost damn near with the, you know, for the Beatminerz on that time frame.
Yeah, and I got a hot take for today, excuse me. Previously, like for the last, I don't know, 15 years, I thought that Into the Stage was like the best album that the Beatminerz were attached to, or Boot Camp Click, right? Like it kind of like it breaks them in, but
who took it? Ja Rule? What did Chris Webber submit? What did you find?
Oh man!
Fun fact: Chris Webber was trying to be a Beatminer, but he was not.
Let Ashes, the '94 mix, crazy.
But yo, man, like I'm willing to, you know, take the hater here for the online, but Smith and Wesson is shining. I'm sorry. I've been sitting with this for like 72 hours. I think that's the best album from the Boot Camp Click, and I think that's the best album that has the Beatminerz soil on there, man. It is just banger after banger after banger. You know, me and friends have seen Smith and Wesson live. You know what I'm saying? They got a great performance. That is definitely their shining, you know, no pun intended. That's their shining catalog, album out of the catalog. And then, you know, Shining is like a 5 micer, you know what I mean? But other than that, I would say I would just mimic what you guys said, like the BCC stuff. And you know, it was interesting how Boot Camp Click in like 97 kind of swayed away from the Beatminerz, and they were kind of like using other producers and stuff. I'm interested in why that was, you know what I mean? I don't really know the answer, but
oftentimes people try to like you know, not repeat something that they've
diversify the sound.
Like
that's what I was.
Sometimes it's for the worst, sometimes it's for the better. RZA's done it too, you know, when he tried to do his live instrumentation, and then you got 8 diagrams from Wu. So you get mixed. You know what I'm saying? You get mixed results. Yeah, some people don't want to like duplicate it. You know, I get it.
Yeah. And I think too, like if we think about like 96, 97, sonically a lot of stuff was changing at that point, you know, for East West, you know, more the quote unquote, you know, shiny suit, you know, mini era. And I think at that time it was almost like they weren't sounding dated, but almost too dated for that particular pocket, where they say, hey, let's try to update and maybe get a little more, like you said, with live instruments, like with the Roots, or, you know, try to find a little middle ground there, which kind of took away from their momentum, you know, quite frankly, at that point. But, you know, trying to evolve with the times, I think, came down to.
Word. Yeah, so and before we get into our final segment, do you guys feel like, so I honestly, the Beatnuts kind of have a more fun, right, like repertoire to them. The Beatminerz are very, very, very just,
It's very dark. It's very it could be ominous. It's like serious. Beatnuts, like you said, like they can be playful. Like I think if like productionally, not just in lyrics, but they can have, like, when you listen to like You're a Clown, they took a damn circus like joint and flipped it. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't get stuff like that from the Beatminerz. You know, they don't try to do that, right? Like, yeah, there's definitely some fundamental differences for sure.
Yeah. You
Well,
guys, go ahead.
I agree and I disagree a little bit. I'll say why. Because I think prior to Stone Crazy, you remember you still had Fashion and VIC. I felt, not saying they were on the same level to Beatminerz, but they definitely had a darker tone to them.
Good point.
It wasn't, to me, Stone Crazy was almost kind of like, okay, we're going to try and train this a little bit more funner records. You know, you had a little bit, but let's make this more of our identity, which I think you didn't see with Musical Massacre and those things. So they had that vibe, but for, I would say, like this, for
one EP, I would say
EP and even the debut, I think a little bit still.
On which one?
We say on Street Level.
Oh, I didn't hear this. I didn't hear that. Yeah, no, because I heard it on. Yeah, like I hear it on there. And even in 90s, I mean, not as strong. Not on Street Level. I mean, on the EP is what I'm saying. I hear it on the EP. Yeah, I mean, and even with an album title like that, it's like, how could it be playful if it's called Intoxicated Demons, right? I mean, it, but I would say there, but I wouldn't say that the bulk of their career.
Oh yeah, not the bulk.
You know what I'm saying? Did they touch on the sound, and have they dabbled in it? Yeah, I would definitely agree there. But I think definitely, you know, as they hit their stride, they kind of let their personalities show. And that's what
I alluded to. Yeah, exactly.
Even Street Level to me is where they started to bloom out of that, like, really hardcore,
right?
Yeah, hardcore. Yeah.
You already start seeing them getting a little playful, like a little bit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs on there is called "Lick the." I'm not gonna finish it. Like, it's one of the best beats on the album too. Like, I think it's one of the, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's called "Lick the." You know what I mean? But yeah, like there was definitely an evolution. You know what I also noticed too? It seemed like with the Beatnuts, when they first came out on that EP, you could tell they were heavily influenced by the sounds around them. Yes. Whereas once you start to get in further, like Street Level, and even further, like Stone Crazy, Musical Massacre, is when their identity develops more and more. But when you listen to that first EP, and it's like a 25-minute joint. I mean, it's an EP, right? It's not going to be long. You hear, like it sounds very, like that was the sound of then. But then when you get further along, it's like, no, that sounds like their sound. You know what I mean? Like that's it, you know, if that makes sense. So,
and that's what I think too. Also, when Fashion and that's why I think they say, okay, we can truly be who we kind of are. You know, I felt like they were trying to compliment everybody else. Now it's like, this is what works for us. This is our personality. I think that's where you really see it truly bloom. You know, at that point.
Word. Well, yeah. We'll get into the battle now. You know, so we're gonna basically tailor, like, who we're gonna get down to nuts and bolts of this. So, who is the greater production team between the Beatnuts and the Beatminerz, and we're going to give our explanations on why. This portion is, you know, purely based on our opinions of their output, and we'll have a rating scale at the end of this episode. So our categories here are producing, beat making, and solo talent. Our scores will be 1 to 5, 1, you know, being low, 5 being the apex. We got an asterisk for solo talent here. So for the Beatminerz, it would be their 3 albums that they have: Brace for Impact, 2001, Fully Loaded with Static Selector, 04, and then they have Unmarked Music Volume 1, which is 07, just to be clear. And the cumulative score will win. So for our first rating scale here, production, what do you guys give the Beatminerz and the Beatnuts from a 1 to 5 perspective?
I would go, you know, and I put my complete bias aside. I went so numerically, I went Beatminerz. I gave them a 4.25 out of 5. Beatnuts, I gave them a 4 out of 5, and that's just like relative to each other. When I listen to the best of both of their stuff, I feel like that the Beatminerz in some way were a little bit ahead, especially like from the jump. It doesn't mean that one is like trash and the other one isn't, right? Like, I don't want to convey that at all. And that's why I only have it as a difference of 0.25. I think the and maybe it's the fact that they had, rotating members at some point a little bit longer than the Beatnuts did. So maybe they had maybe there was more ideas to work with. But I gave the slight edge here, and I'm a Beatnuts guy all the way. I gave the slight edge here to the Beatminerz.
Okay, so you had 4.2 and 4.5.
4.25 for Beatminerz, and then just 4 for Beatnuts. 4 out of 5.
Okay.
I needed to show like that there was just a notch between them somehow. So that was like the closest way I did it.
Or how about you guys though?
For me, I went 4.5 for both. I think Beatminerz, if we're looking at the very beginning, they came out swinging, where let's say Beatnuts might have had more like couple bunnies, couple bunts to play. But I think once Beatnuts really got in their pocket, I just think their sound and the different sounds, they can only crack for themselves, but even with the collaborators that they worked with, knowing their style, how to tweak it, whether it was Pun, whether it was, Method Man, Willie Stubbs. So I think they were able to also make sure the other person shine as well. So I think when they hit that pocket, it was almost, to me, damn near got close, if not closer, to the Beatminerz, prime, production wise at that point. So I kind of kept it right there, because especially if we're talking about the later 90s when, boot camp kind of moved away from the Beatminerz. I think the, lack of exposure and then trying to find other pockets of the artists were hit and miss at times.
Yeah. So for producing, I gave a slight edge actually to the Beatnuts.
I love it.
Yeah, I just feel like they can go another layer. So I gave them a 4.5 for us producing, and I gave the Beatminerz a 4 for producing.
All right.
And like, this is tough, man. I mean, both of these acts are like very we're talking about like the best of the best, like, you know what I mean? Like, and this is why I think this is a nice switch up, because we did Dre and Kanye before, those are like big names. But hip hop is like so loaded and just gifts and jewels. But I think both of these acts are like in that pile of like other great talent. So we'll slide on down to beat making, which is a little more, singular, particular. Ray, what would you give both of the production teams, the Beatminerz and the Beatnuts, as far as beat making?
Beat making, I went with the exact same. I gave slight edge to Beatminerz, 4.25 out of 5. Beatnuts 4 out of 5. I just felt like when it came to like each other's best stuff, and again, I'm a Beatnuts guy through and through, but when I looked at like the best stuff that the Beatminerz did, I think they helped create albums that are deemed classics on a wider scale over the Beatnuts. So that's probably the only reason I gave them the slight edge. You know what I mean? And again, like a 4 out of 5 is not like a bad thing. Beatnuts, like they can give you brighter tones in their music or whatever. But I just feel like when you put like the best of the best together, slight edge to the Beatminerz. And this is just beat making, so
love it.
Beat making for me, I gave honestly the edge to the Beatnuts. I gave them 4.5. I just felt like they had more range as far as, okay, what type of beat are you looking for? What type of sound are you looking for? Where I think like Beatminerz, they had these sound, but if they ask you to give you a little variation or whatever, you might not really got it. So it might sound, still boot camp through and through, where I think Beatnuts kind of gave you a little bit more range depending on what type of feel, type of environment. Because remember, especially if we're talking about, they had more part of your anthem, more, the light field tracks, where Beatminerz kind of had that same consistent sound, which is not bad because you want to have a signature sound. But at the same time, if you wanted to have a little switch up, you weren't really getting that, to me, from the Beatminerz on that level.
So you gave the edge. What was your score?
4.5 Beatnuts, 4 for Beatminerz.
Okay. So I went here for beat making. I went Beatnuts. I gave him a 4. Like, I think that they can like handcraft, kind of with the best of them. But not with the Beatminerz. Beatminerz got a 5 here for me. home bias kicks in here.
I think you get a little bit more flexibility, even within their sound. Like I agree that Beatnuts can give you more range. I think Beatminerz found a lot of different ways to deliver like that dark sound. Like as I was kind of revisiting stuff, and not even just the boot camp stuff, but even like as I was going into like Brace for Impact and stuff, I was just like, it didn't hit a redundancy for me. So like that was probably the only reason why I could slightly, give it to them. Like, and again, just by a pinch, you know what I mean? That's probably the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, like bare bones, right? Like we say, like having nothing to, you got scraps, right? And you got to put these scraps together. I think that's what beat making is. I think the Beatminerz can do that better than Beatnuts can. So we'll go down to our last cumulative score here. So solo talent. So it's like the elephant in the room, right? Like it's no secret that one of these production teams actually raps, right? So is that obvious advantage, or is it not? And that'll be reflected in our last score, and we'll let the fellas give their say so. So solo talent for both the Beatnuts and the Beatminerz.
Solo talent, that was and this is just based on like Beatnuts discography. That was a 4.5 out of 5. I don't give out 5s easily, just in life. I'm just difficult like that. So a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Solo talent. They have such a dope catalog, and this is now not just talking beats. This is what they did with beats. Concepts. Like enjoyable choruses and stuff like that. How they evolved during their career. It's been a great ride to watch, not be a part of, not on the team. It's been a while since they've dropped an album. They were supposed to release Planet of the Crates a long time ago. Nothing. I know Psycho Les has done some solo stuff. But yeah, solo talent, Beatnuts versus like Beatminerz, I think it's like 3 they did. Like I think Beatnuts kind of like they just flat out better when it comes to that stuff. It seems like the Beatminerz have they're really good at working with others. Like they could sit there in a room and kind of help bring a vision to life, bring ideas and stuff like that. And I'm not taking anything away from their solo projects, but I think the Beatnuts, I guess because they are rappers, somehow maybe they know how which beats for which lyrics. And I think when you're the writer and the creator of the beat, I think there's a certain connection that goes a little deeper there than having to go through a middleman, so to speak, by working with another producer. So Beatnuts, I went 4.5 out of 5 here. Beatminerz, I went 4 out of 5 here.
Okay. For me, Beatnuts was also 4.5. As far as a possible elephant in the room, yeah, I think if you're producing / rapper, you kind of see the whole vision. But I also look at it if they didn't do more of that transformation after Fashion and VIC left, I don't know if I would have had them that high. I think they really came to their sound, their personality, their vibe at that point. Especially, like I said, we look at Musical Massacre, which is my personal favorite Beatnuts album. Does that whole sound and through and through. So and then have the solid No Escaping This, and then even Stone Crazy and the other album, I think they had a very consistent vision overall. I think with Beatminerz, if we're looking at on a BCC standpoint, versus a solo, I think that's where it's kind of a drop off, only because you're not really working within your camp. You might give that same vibe to that one particular artist, but are those other tracks still giving that same feel? Because now you got multiple voices, got a lot of hands in the kitchen right now at that point. So with the Beatminerz, if it was strictly on BCC standpoint, I probably would have given maybe around 4.5. But again, if we're factoring also the stuff they did outside the camp, I'm moving down to about 3.3 and a quarter. 3.75, I should say. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the solo talent here, I think it's an obvious advantage to the Beatnuts in this category. I'm gonna give the Beatnuts a 4.5 here. I think like I'm right here. Like it's hard to have a 5. you know, even though they have like, I mean, they got at least, in my opinion, they got at least 2 classic albums. So I mean, one could argue that they could be a 5 for solo talent.
Mm.
But yeah, it's just like 4.5, man. You always leave room for like
Yeah.
error. But yeah, Beatminerz solo talent. Honestly, like, you know, they don't match up here. This is probably the most like incongruent category, but like if you, because I mean, I spent some time going back, listening to the first Beatminerz and then the Static album and then Mark Music. Yo, man, like when the Brace for Impact came out, I ain't gonna lie, like it was something I listened to maybe like 4 times, if that, in 2001, probably less than that. But like that's just because, you know, the climate, it was just so much other stuff to compete.
Yeah.
And that album has aged very well right now. And
I liked it. I will say I liked it.
Yeah, very well. Static's album too. So and I'm kind of surprised here. I'm gonna give him a 4 here with solo talent. Coming into this, I was like, man, 2, 3, you know.
Oh.
Sorry, Drew High. The illest white boy CEO, by the way, in hip hop, Drew High. Shout out, Drew High.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I'm like, man, they kind of came to play when it came to solo talent. And I got 2 questions I want to post to y'all before we do the cumulative wrap up. Do you guys feel like the Beatminerz suffered from not putting out something earlier with their name, and what is like the best album if we could choose one, like from both of them?
Yeah, it could have hurt because by the time we, you know, get Brace for Impact, sonically so much is different in hip hop. Like a lot of people are moving away from that sound. Had that, let's say, drop 98 or something, especially. You know, with that same clientele, I think you would have had a more because you were still within that range. But I think by the time it came out in the early 2000s, I think they kind of like just missed that hot point. You know, my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one thing I would add on is they got lucky that Raucous existed at that time, because it's like that was pretty much just like, if it's not gonna drop now, like it's not gonna get the attention like that, you know, it got in that time. Like I said, I remember it getting source, it had ads in the source for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, you know, this is a magazine that, you know, you could turn one page could be a Beatminerz ad, the next page could be a Jay-Z ad, two very different ends of the spectrum. So you had the same kind of people picking up these publications that could see these promotions. But I would say, yeah, like an album like that would have probably, you know, maybe fared better even in 98, because you had songs like, you know, like in 98, something like Money, Power, Respect, which I get it was on Bad Boy, but the song itself, which was just a gritty song, you know, charted in the top 40. So who's to say what they could have did? You know, they have a pretty lengthy track list on that, specifically on that Brace for Impact, that you know, I think would have worked on kind of like on a mainstream level. So yeah.
And like I read the review for the Brace for Impact, and like you know, one of the things was just like that the music was great, but it came out too late. Like the sound was already shifting. Like, you know, O2 is a whole different sound for every region.
Yeah, by this point, you have the emergence of the Neptunes, the Just Blaze, Timbaland, like you got all these non-boom bap artists that are just redefining the sound. Manny Fresh, you know what I'm saying? Like you got all these people who are just expanding the sound. You know, as with any genre, right? Like that's just gonna happen. So yeah, that's what I said. Like Renzo said, man, if that had dropped in maybe like 98, maybe would have fared a little better. You know?
Yeah, agreed. And if we're picking one album, you know, to die with from both of these sides, man, what we going with?
I would, so based on this refresh I was doing recently, I think for me the finest hour I heard from the Beatminerz is Enter the Stage, and then from the Beatnuts, it's always been Musical Massacre. I think they hit like a creative peak sonically. Lyrically, they're enjoyable. I always wish Juju would have just buckled down and did some solos. I always thought he was like the stronger of the lyricists. Man, that's just a classic album. So I would just say Musical Massacre for Beatnuts, and Enter the Stage from, you know, produced that was entirely by the Beatminerz. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page with you with the Enter Stage and Musical Massacre. Enter Stage, just that's the vibe, and you got that gritty darkness, but you still got like some nice jazzy touches to it as well. And for Beatnuts, definitely Musical Massacre. Like I said, I worked from No Escaping It and then going fully back. I just felt like the creative standpoint, the artists they're just working with, and that's the whole sound and vibe. And it's hard not to argue that album down.
And they had like their most. I don't know what's their most recognizable single. I want to say Off the Books, but then they followed up Stone Crazy with Watch Out Now, which got so much burn too. You know what I mean? Like, yo, man, like, and they didn't even go gold off that album. That's what's so crazy. That song alone got so much burn. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I feel like it's still Watch Out Now, even though, like you said, that's not their biggest album, but I think it kind of got people now checking them out, from there. Because I'm even hearing the first time on the radio, I'm like, ooh, especially when you see the video, matching that whole vibe and all that. Yeah, I
want to say Watch Out Now too as well. Yeah, and I mean, not for nothing, it was good enough for the Trackmasters to copy a few years later, right? Like they had beef with the Trackmasters, right? Yeah, and they gave it to J-Lo. The Locks are on there, and that I think that became a top 40 record. It was just like they dissed J-Lo on Milk Me. They're like, it's called Confused Rappers. They J-Lo and the Trackmasters, or whatever, something like that. Off of that, just a little backgrounder. But go ahead, B-Stacks. Or whoever's next, my bad.
Yeah, you good, man. Watch Out Now. It's just such, man, that's one of the best songs. They got two. They got Off the Books and Watch Out Now. I think those like two of the best songs in hip hop. Like if we're doing like top 100 songs. I want to say like my personal favorite is Street Level, but Musical Massacre it just changed the sound of hip hop, the scope of hip hop. To me, Street Level is like if you want to just kind of live in '94 for a while, for like for 40 minutes, that's your album. But if I gotta pick one that really just it's very different from the rest, it's Musical Massacre as well. I'll swing the same question for the Beatminerz. I can lead it off here. And for me, it would be it will be Into the Stage Black Moon. Even though I decided that The Shining was a better output. But Into the Stage this is the first time we hear them up to bat, and it's really like that.
Knocked it out the park too, Jesus.
Dude, like where the Beatnuts were like kind of sounding like others around them, like not biting, but you could tell they were influenced.
Yeah, that's how that EP sounds to me, man. It sounds like their influences are exactly who you would think it would be. They sound
The Beatminerz, this is like we have heard nothing like this. Like it is. This is totally, what is this? Like
who got the props? I got you open, man. How many MCs? Like these are like still, and even Eminem did an I Got You Open remix, like on like the Recovery album or something like Marshall Mathers LP to one of them, which is a testament. He's somebody that you would think is so far removed, right? Even though he's always shown his love, but like, that's a testament right there.
Wow. Yeah. So Into the Stage for me. Sure.
All right, so how do we we doing like individual tallies or are we adding all of ours? Like
I've been keeping score here. So I added up each producer, beat maker, and solo talent. So with the cumulative score for producing, we have the Beatnuts coming out with the 17 and the Beatminerz coming out with the 16. So the Beatnuts take that category.
Right.
As far as beat making goes, we have the Beatminerz with the 18 and the Beatnuts with the 15. In the last round, solo talent, we have that was pretty much a wash. 20 to 16.5. So the Beatnuts curve it out here by about 8.5 points here. And I think that's pretty reflective of our conversation.
Yeah.
So BCC fans, sorry man, I'm in the minority here on this one.
So what was the final score?
So we edge it out. I didn't actually add everything up,
but producing, you said, was Beatnuts won that one with 17 points. Beat making was 18 for Beatminerz, and then solo talent was 20 for Beatnuts. That's that. I just quickly jotted it down for what you said. I don't have any other numbers.
Yeah. So yeah, the Beatnuts edged them out like cumulative by about 8 or 9 points here.
They also won 2 of the 3 categories. So yeah.
So they were already kind of favorites. But these episodes are always dope, man. When we get to like kind of focus in on some stuff that's not being covered per se. Fellas, man, any lasting impressions you guys want to do? Say, you know what I mean, give off to the people.
I hope we piss off the internet with this. You know how like the underground fans are like the worst. They're like, how dare you? Like, yeah, I genuinely hope. But honestly, it was a nice refresh, and in some ways, like exploring, because like I said, my brother was the one who was like the boot camp like head. So like, streaming makes kind of like finding a lot of these easier, revisiting these. A lot of my playlists got up there. A lot of my playlists are just by year. So I added a lot of stuff, particularly that the Beatminerz had a hand in, to my playlists. So enjoyable matchup, something a little left, something like you said, people ain't talking about, but it's relatable for people who are really like paying attention.
Yeah. I also like this good refresher course, and it just shows you how much levels of dopeness was out during that time, because there's so many albums that we might have missed when they first came out, and it was maybe 5, sometime in 10 years later to really appreciate it, because we were just spoiled with a lot of the music during that time frame. So it allowed me to re-experience some of the stuff I felt then, but also now as an adult that might not experience it, as a younger person, to really say, man, that this aged phenomenally well, So it was a treat, man. It was definitely a treat.
For sure. Same here, man. I did a lot of refreshers, and, had to go back in the crates to dig up good music. And, man, I'm just glad that Chris Webber never became a Beatminer.
Oh, man. You weren't ready for that Prince's Offense album to come out. You know what I mean?
You know what I wish, man? Like, besides the fact that the Beatnuts did the Chiali, I wish that in their career that they had, locked in with like an artist or like a group. And kind of done that, because like they definitely have the chops for it. Like they do their work here and there. You've seen what they've done in some of the examples that we cited. I wish that they had locked in with like, dude, even if with Brandon, they could have locked in with Prospect. He could have got out the basement. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that could have been dope.
Or just like an EP or something. It would have just been dope to have had, to have seen them executive produce something. I mean, I love what they've given in their own. Or even have done like a compilation style like the Beatminerz did, right? Like Beatminerz, the dopest part of that Brace for Impact is the freaking laundry list of features on there. They got everybody from Naughty by Nature to freaking Royce the 5'9", you know what I'm saying? They actually even, I forgot, they produced for Eminem on that Sound Bombing too. I forget what the song is called, but on one of those sound bombing joints, they got a track with they got Eminem, like prime Eminem. So but
they're on Low End Theory. Like they got a track on Low End Theory. It's the thing with the Beatnuts. I think they do a really good job of like they could produce for an artist or a group, and it doesn't like overshadow. Where Beatminerz is like, I would say like a Primo or Dre. They kind of like just suck all the oxygen with their juice. But the Beatnuts can kind of like be like an invisible thing on the wall, but giving you sound.
No, for sure. And it was funny, we were just thinking like I'm still thinking about their contributions to Spring Clientele. Like maybe that era goes space with Beatnuts production, I think would have been something real interesting to hear. The different angles they can go. But yeah, they had like a compilation album, especially around the Musical Massacre time, I think because you had so many compilation albums coming out. DJ Honda was out, the Funk Flex. So that would have been just a perfect time to say, here's our contribution right here,
And they worked with DJ Honda. Remember that joint that were just some men that's on the mic? Cuban Link was on that. Juju got a verse. I forget who else. Funny you mentioned that. That was like 98. Yeah, I would have loved for prime level Beatnuts, a compilation. I wonder, maybe it's just a creative like no for them, but I would definitely like if I could ever run into something like, yo, how come like clearly could have done it, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, just to clear that up, I had to look it up. They co-produced The Business on Low End Theory's Tropical Quest with Diamond D. They co-produced that. Yeah.
Man.
I mean,
nice. Well, here's
learn something new every day.
Hopefully this episode somehow stirs up the universe and we get that Planet of the Crates or that Beatnuts Alcoholics collabo, the Lick Nuts, right? Like you know what I mean? Like you hear about it, but then nothing.
Yeah.
And I still wish Juju would just drop an EP or something, man. He's nice on the mic. I've always liked him as a rapper.
Yeah.
So
and that's what I think. That's one thing I felt like they never got respect, especially on Juju's side, as as a lyricist, because like he had some standout verses. And you could tell, Psycho, just wanted this, just do whatever. But Juju, when he was focused, definitely could, hang with the, the best of them.
Yeah, even when he was doing features, non Beatnuts features, like sometimes he would be, like I said, like the DJ Honda joint. You remember the Tony Touch, the Kapiku joint? It was Fat Joe, Nori, Juju, like. Yo, man, Juju definitely, I mean, I could go on for another hour. I don't want to keep talking, but definitely wish he would just drop some music, man. But actually, I'll say this and then we'll wrap it up. He was doing an Instagram live like a year or two ago, and I sent a question. I said, "Yo, when are you dropping?" I was like, "You dropping a solo album?" And then he read my question. He was like, "Yo," he's like, from your mouth to God's ears, but then that's all he said. So I don't know what's in the way of that. You know what I'm saying?
That Joe's in the way.
Yeah.
Like go to the basement.
Yeah. So I asked him, he answered it, but that was all he gave me on an Instagram live. So all right, well, again, this was dope to do, man. I still got some of this stuff. Honestly, I want to keep playing that Brace for Impact.
All right, man, you can quit that now.
I want to keep listening to the Brace for Impact, and that was it. This was good. So as always, we're at Tres Leches Radio. You can find us at Tres Leches Radios on everything. And let us know what you think. Let us know of any potential matchups you would like to see for the future. This is a series we'll do from time to time. Let us know who you want to see. All right.
Tres out, baby.
Peace.
Just roho.